Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, let the record reflect that I certainly like the chairman even more than does Representative Schofield.
Thank you. And did I lay everything out correctly?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
I'm here to testify in favor of House Bill
Thank you, sir.
1475. To address some of the comments from the prior witness from Common Cause, the reason why this legislation is needed is you want equal application of the law across the vast state of Texas. And you don't have equal application of the law across the vast state of Texas if you have certain jurisdictions taking and making their own interpretations of things as simple as how late the polls should be open on Election Day. That is why we need this provision to make sure that the Attorney General is notified within a timely fashion so that they can adjudicate and make a determination as to whether the circumstances that perhaps resulted in the court order are legitimate and should be applied. Otherwise, you'll end up with a patchwork quilt of complying with the Texas Election Code on Election Day, and that certainly is not acceptable. So I think this is a very simple bill. It's a needed fix that will allow for consistent application of the law across the state.
Thank you, sir, very much for being here. Representative Raymond?
Thank you, Chairman. So let's walk through this. Let's say it passed. So how do you envision this? What do you see happening or could happen that you're trying to address? You feel like the bill is trying to improve upon or address?
Right. So as we've seen, I mean, I hate to return to it seems like the common theme with Harris County, but if you look at in Harris County, both in 2018 and 2022, you had circumstances where there were precincts that some of which may not have opened in time due to some lack of preparation and coordination by the elections officials in Harris County. There were then multiple lawsuits filed requesting that those polling locations stay open longer to make up for the late start time. In the instance that was referenced by the author, I believe in 2022, however, there was no notification made up the food chain. They just started to do things delaying.
So hold on. So they, and I apologize.
Sure.
I was a little, and I apologize to the author, who's my very good friend. I was multitasking, and my apologies on that. But I want to make sure I get this right in my understanding. So Harris County, something happened, 2 or 3 precincts or 5, I don't know how many there were, but some precincts opened late. And so someone went to court and said, hey, these 5 precincts opened an hour late, whatever the reason. Really, the voter doesn't care. It's whatever the reason was. So then some judge says, okay, so these 5 precincts can stay open until 8 p.m., right? Is that what happened?
That, in essence, yes.
And so then what would you like added to that didn't happen?
What we would like to see added to that did not happen is a notification to the Attorney General about
okay, so
what is about to
let's
happen.
say we'd had this in place already. So some judge says, all right, these 5 are going to, in the Ayala's, district are going to stay open, another hour. And boom, they also, the judge is letting, under this, it would be the judge that would let the AG know? Yes, thumbs up. So the judge would then let the AG know, hey, I've decided I'm going to let these 5 precincts stay open for another hour because they opened an hour late. So then what do you think happens at that point, or what do you hope?
If everything's on the up and up and it's determined that this is a proper remedy for certain precincts opening late, then the Attorney General may do nothing at all.
So so a judge has already determined that, right? A judge has made a determination. Okay, a judge has not made a determination. A judge has not made the determination. So what this bill would actually do is would let the judge know that somebody's going to court to go try to get an extension of an hour on these 5 precincts.
Right. I was thinking current law versus...
all right. So then I guess what you're hoping or thinking is that the Attorney General is notified, hey, these guys are going to court, or they've now gone to court. The court has to immediately let the AG know. So then the Attorney General, I guess...
They can certainly intervene to determine whether or not the Texas law is being appropriately followed.
So
They're
the-
representing the interests of the state of Texas.
So how do you see it playing out? So let's say the AG looks at it and says, well, okay, I'm okay with that. I think
Right.
it makes sense, you know, these 5 folks,
Right.
whatever happened, these 5 precincts. But the Attorney General or somebody on their staff, going to be somebody on the staff, right, says, wait a minute, I don't know about precinct, 1487, because I don't know. I don't know about that one. I'm not sure that this makes sense. So then the Attorney General objects, is that what you think?
Correct.
So they object, and then what happens?
Well, things are probably going to head up to the Supreme Court very quickly. I mean, that's where they've gone in the past.
So then, how do you see it playing out that, so it goes to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court then says, we agree with, you didn't even wait for the judge to make a ruling, right? Is that right? Or are you waiting for the judge to make a ruling?
I don't believe so. This is all
Oh,
part
you know
of
what? I
the-
think I'm going to ask the author.
I think that's a wise choice,
I apologize.
Representative Raymond.
I'll ask
We're getting
them.
into a lot of hypotheticals
I'm
here,
sorry.
but I do appreciate your thinking through this, because this is,
I'm trying to get
Very
it right.
important,
I want to try to get
exactly.
it right. This is too important, and,
I think, to summarize, though, to go back to the premise, it's important for the application of election law to be consistent across the state. And you don't want to have outliers in an election where certain votes, certain precincts are more equal than others. I think that's
well,
what
I
this is
think,
trying to
I
solve.
will say this to you. I don't care where the precinct is. Okay, I don't care if it's Amarillo, Laredo, Houston, Beaumont, Texarkana. I don't care. If a precinct, voting precinct, for whatever the reason, and I don't care what that reason is either, this is just me, open an hour late, then I think that precinct needs to stay open an hour later. I really don't care what the reason is, okay? So I think that's equal. Now, if we're gonna, that's why I think I need to ask the author, kind of, he may have said it in the opening and I didn't catch it, and I apologize. But I hope that we can all agree. Well, let me just ask you, would you agree that if a precinct, for whatever reason, was open an hour late, no matter where they are in Texas, that precinct should stay open an hour later?
On that principle, I agree. This bill, though, covers more instances than just that, right?
Well, maybe,
It
but
isn't
maybe we could,
specific to that issue.
but we try to make bills better sometimes. Sometimes they're perfect.
Right.
Sometimes they're not. And so I'm bringing that up because that's the example you used, that you started with. And maybe we need to put something in there that, hey, you know what? But no matter what, if a precinct is open an hour later than it should have been, we can stipulate that it's going to stay open, and that's one where the AG cannot challenge it, or something like that. You'd be for that probably, right? You'd be for that, because
You're asking me to think on my feet on some complex election law issues.
that's not very complex.
Representative
If it was open
Raymond.
an hour late, I don't care what the reason was, then you keep it open an hour late,
Or-
in my opinion. And you should say yes, because it'll make your case and your position stronger. No, I'm serious.
Representative Raymond, what I'd like to know is, how do we know exactly when it opened? What are the circumstances, et cetera? So these things sometimes are not as cut and dry as they seem. I would stipulate, though, on the general principle that you were enunciating, of course.
I love it. No further questions.
All right.
Wow. I certainly didn't expect this, Mr. Chairman, but I'm always delighted to have questions from the members.
Members, any other questions? Thank you, sir,